It's January. The hangover of festivities is hitting hard. Work and school loom forebodingly on the horizon. You're exhausted from 2 weeks' worth of socialising with relatives you only see once a year, the only thing of which you have in common is blood. And you're about a stone heavier and essentially a functioning alcoholic after Christmas. But there are some films that make the dark, cold first month of the new year just that little bit warmer. I'm Rhian Evans, and you are listening to Disc 2, the podcast that looks at all things movie-related and discusses the imprints films have left on our lives. In this episode, myself and special guest Lewis Foster are looking at what films to watch in January and the ones to definitely give a wide berth that are sure to leave you crying in a corner, cradling a bottle of sherry in the fetal position. Welcome along to Disc 2 Movie Review. Lewis Foster.
All right, mate.
Big film fan.
I do like big films.
You do like, right, okay.
Little films as well.
Yeah.
Quite good.
Medium films?
No.
Not those, sorry. Okay, sorry for asking.
Can I swear?
I don't know if you can, actually. Start again. Yeah, how long have you been into films for, or just pretty much your whole life?
All my life, ever since the age of 8, when my dad put on...
Did your life start at 8?
I can't remember anything else. Prior to this event, actually, because my dad put on Saving Private Ryan when I was 8-year-old. And the first 20 minutes...
Scarred you for life.
Scarred me for life. And it ran off crying, and I've loved film ever since.
I remember my dad would shelter me from like bad films, and I remember we were watching Titanic, and then just before the end, as the boat was going down, like he sent me to bed, and then the next day I knew in my heart that Jack would die.
Jack's gone.
Yeah, and but I didn't see it, and I was like, "Was Jack okay, Dad?" And he was like, Yeah, he was fine. I was like, what happened?
Just
I was
a bit
like,
of frostbite.
Yeah. He was like,
Nothing
oh
really.
yeah, they got picked up. They were fine. And I was like, okay, but I knew it wasn't real.
Yeah, that's like Phoebe on Friends. Her mum does that. Yeah, it's quite. It's an interesting parenting style, isn't it? Literally the complete polar opposite to what my dad would do. Literally, yeah, this is the world, Lewis. This is you're going to learn about limbs being thrown over shoulders from an early age, because it's going to happen to you
on a daily basis.
I still do worry about it. Next week, that beach. You'll see me there.
Shouldn't joke about war films.
No, absolutely not.
So we're going to talk about films that you should and shouldn't watch in January, because January has a reputation of being the hardest month of the year. You've just come out of the most wonderful, what is known as the most wonderful time of the year, into the dark, dank.
Yeah, Blue Monday in January.
What is Blue Monday?
It's a song by New Order.
Oh, yes. Dun,
other than that, it's I think it's the 21st of January, or well, obviously not every year. It's one of those days, like the third Monday in January, when everyone realises that Christmas is over, life's back to normal, and everything's still grey and depressing, pretty much. So yeah, it's supposed to be something like the lowest trough of
humanity.
Human emotion.
So, to help you with that, we are talking about some nice films that can sort of help lift your spirits in January, because it can be a pretty hard fall from Christmas. So what constitutes a good January film to watch, would you say?
Somewhat light-hearted.
Warm.
Yeah.
Comforting.
Not too escapist, I would say.
Yeah, because you need to keep a little bit of a toe in reality, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you went full-born fantasy, then you'd just be like, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I was in Mordor,
right? Okay,
chopping the heads off orcs.
Yeah, okay. Well,
going to the office.
I'm just going to scratch off Lord of the Rings from my.
You actually got Lord
I genuinely had Lord of the Rings.
Right. Okay.
I have other options. It's fine.
Cloud Atlas. You don't want to
be
trying to get your head around that film in January.
I don't even understand.
Neither do I. I watched about 8 minutes and gave up.
Yeah, so did I. My friend Scott was very disappointed in me because he loves it. I just couldn't get into it. So we're looking at good films to get you through January. Warm, uplifting, leaves you with a smile on your face. What's your first choice?
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, that's a lot. Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Excellent
Roald Dahl.
choice for January.
Wes Anderson, as the Americans say. Just beautiful. It is a beautiful film, and it's my go-to. To be honest with you, it's really weird. It's my go-to film when I'm sick, because I got really ill last year at university. Right, scrap that. I got really sick last year at uni just for one day. It was a flash in the pan illness.
Hangover.
No, it was like the after effects of a hangover. So fresh as flu.
Okay.
So I got a cold last year at uni.
Yeah.
And,
so I was fine last year at uni. I watched this film.
By opening that sentence I got really sick last year, I have completely
dug yourself down in the January hole.
Yeah. Basically, get the violins out. I had the sniffles one day last year, and all my flatmates went out on this big night out, and it was. There were always these Friday nights at Leicester and these events called shebang nights at the O2 Academy. And I loved them because they were so terrible. But you could go in and get like two, what do you call them, VKs?
Oh, yes.
Like Alco Pops.
Yeah.
That I just... I'm doing that because you used to be able to like... Right, I'm pointing my fingers down like a rabbit. You could like stick your fingers down the holes of the bottles. And like...
Why? Sorry.
VK hands. So like, you could buy 6.
Edward VK hands.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you were there. You could stick 3 fingers on both hands into 6 separate bottles of VK, and it could be any flavour. Apple was the best one. And you'd like walk around with them.
I didn't
walk around with them.
Any flavour is fine. It all works the same.
But basically, it was Edward VK hands. But the problem was you could then never drink it.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Just imagine you going in. I'll have 6 VKs, please. Yeah. Putting them on, and then when you got bored, just letting them all smash on the floor and walking off.
They were plastic for that reason. Oh, okay. For that reason specifically, and cost you about £4 for 6, and destroy your memory.
That's
anyway.
Brilliant.
I love Fantastic Mr. Fox because. Because I missed out on one of these nights that all my flatmates were going to, and I was just really bogged down, really grotty, and I was laying on the kitchen sofa, because we had a sofa in the kitchen at university, like everyone. The standard black pleather sofa that every student house has, straining my neck like this on a 90-degree angle.
No give,
no give whatsoever, and I stuck this movie on. And there was a bit of a prees going on in the house, and I'd watched about 10 minutes of it anyway. And I just put it on pause because they were being a bit loud. And then my flatmate came in and he was like, "Oh, I'm so gutted you're not coming out tonight. This is my friend Ammon, legend." And that makes me sound like a lad. This is my friend Ammon, who's a really nice guy.
Nice gentleman.
And he put like a little cold flannel on my head.
Oh, bless
and
him.
all our other mates were like, "Ammon, the taxi's here. Leave Lewis to die," you know. So anyway, I was sat there on the sofa with this flannel on my head, like most people will be throughout January, I imagine, and watched Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it just made me feel 10 times better.
Fantastic, so, would you say?
It was fantastic, yeah. It was also a bit Mr. and a little bit Fox.
Yeah, very good, very good. I also liked your choice of words when you said bogged down, because isn't it bogus, bunce and bean? Yeah.
One fat, one short, one lean.
Lean. Did you say mean? They're all mean.
One shot. No. Oh.
It's all going wrong.
God, one fat, one short, one lean.
Yep.
Bogus, bunce and bean.
I don't know. I don't remember the end.
Bogus, bunce and bean. One fat, one short, one lean.
Lewis Foster, look out for my new single.
They're like beans. Yeah, basically.
I remember we used to live in Darwin before we moved to the Isle of Man, and we would drive down to Blackpool quite a lot to stay with my nan, and we had Fantastic Mr. Fox on tape, and we would play it in the car, and me and my brother would sit quietly in the back listening to this over and over and over. Yeah. It's such a lovely story. Although the first time I watched the film, if I'm honest, I was quite tripped out by the stop motion, the way it looked. I found a bit trippy, but then the more I watched it, the more I liked it.
It is fantastic, and it's like you think of Aardman, obviously, with so being English, British, Isle of Manish.
Manx.
Manx.
Manx radio.
You get so used to Aardman and Wallace and Gromit dominating everything, and then this American comes in and does it all in puppets, and you think, whoa, what the hell is this? And obviously Wes has got that symmetry going out throughout all the way through. The style choices in it are just incredible. The colour palette.
Yes, his colours in all his films.
Auburn, autumnal thing going on all the time. The music, Beach Boys, you know, all 60s kind of bebop balooba stuff.
Very good. And also when I've just thought of it, actually, the long shots where you can see everything. I'm sure there's shots where you can see them underground, like running along and whatnot. Yeah. That is really like the pictures in the book, you know, which is really cool.
And it's a great little thing of Mrs. Fox who paints, and she does all these sort of massive maps in gorgeous detail and everything else. And you just think it's kind of like you're looking at a painting of a painting.
Yeah,
it's very strange, very cleverly done.
It's so good.
Worth a watch.
Wes Anderson, I actually did have down as like a maybe on my list, the Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's
quite sad at the end though. So
contender.
But the pinks and the blues. Again, if I could replicate that just
Wes
in daily
Anderson's
life,
style, it's very good. And that would be up there for me if it wasn't such a. I don't know. It's not exactly like you say. It's not a pick me up, but it's a very entertaining film.
If you don't watch the end, it's lovely.
Maybe if you're bored throughout January, then If January was less depressing and more just boring, then I would stick Grand Budapest on. But
no, that's a good one.
Some really good stuff in
that. Solid point. Moving on. So I actually have. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's just come on Netflix. The Prom.
The Prom. I saw the trailer for it, and it looked quite
not your bag.
Not my cup of cheese.
Not your cup of cheese.
No.
I love that. I hate people that say love it.
Oh my god, love it.
So I listen to, usually when I'm on the morning shifts, I listen to Mark Kermode and Simon Mayo film reviews on YouTube, because they're just like 5 minutes long, the ones on YouTube. And for some reason, getting up at like 5 a.m, I never go up at 5 a.m. I get up at like 5:20.
Scandalous.
Yeah, I know. And I play that because I find it quite comforting. And he talked about The Prom and how he wasn't expecting much, but how as soon as it started, he was won over. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, because I am a big musicals fan. I really don't like James Corden.
I was going to say, is this the one that he's in it?
Yeah,
he's doing this
really
bad American accent.
Yeah. But I've got to give him credit because I think he's actually very good in it. It doesn't make me like him anymore.
No.
But I was pretty sold on it. It's a Broadway musical, which I think came out in 2018. The songs, I'm always really wary of new musical songs because I just think they're a bit naff, but they're all really good, and it's just super glittery. And I'm not a massive girly girl, but there's something about glitter that I really like. It just speaks to me. But yeah, it's a bit ironic though, because the parts in the film were originally not created, but supposed to go to like Broadway actors to give them a chance to shine.
Right.
And then they ended up giving them to like Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman.
Screw the Broadway.
We're just going to steal your story and then give it to the A-listers.
I mean, it depends what kind of how the story.
Sorry, so yes, the story. Hang on, I've screenshotted. Oh, I've just seen you've messaged saying groovy. Excellent.
Yeah. I'd finished my pee.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know you were going to the toilet before we met. That was really vital information. Yes, a troupe of hilariously self-obsessed theatre stars swarm into a small conservative Indiana town in support of a high school girl who wants to take her girlfriend to the prom.
Right. Okay.
So they've basically pushed her out because she's gay. But yeah, I really like it, and I wasn't expecting to, but I get the vibe that you're not a massive musical fan.
I do like musicals. No, I do.
Which musicals do you like?
I really like.
just expecting you to reel off like a bunch of like musicians and artists. I'm like, those are singers.
Musicals like the Bob the Builder theme tune. That kind of thing. I do Les Mis, the film's not great, but right. I like West End. I suppose is the best way to say it. Me and Charlotte go now and then to events in London when we could. I've seen loads. God, Billy Elliot. That's a really, really good musical.
Yeah.
Obviously the film not so musical.
Yeah.
But also amazingly good. And I even like cheesy ones like Grease.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's something about just. It being so naff, that's so good.
Exactly. And I do think January is quite a good time for musicals. If you find the right one that's not too over the top, they do pick you up because they're quite shameless musicals, but they fully embrace how shameless they're being. And I think it's nice to jump on board with that. Have you seen The Book of Mormon?
I haven't yet.
Oh, no. But you know of it.
Because my brother went to see it and basically didn't shut up about it. That's about 3 years ago. He's still on about it now.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll see him next week for Christmas and he'll definitely...
The first thing he says to you, you haven't seen him in a year. Let me tell you about this thing.
Apparently there's some song in it with a ridiculous amount of swear words. Is that right?
Yes.
And he just likes to sing that to our grandma every Christmas. And,
brilliant.
She loves it, actually.
Well, the main guy from the Book of Mormon who won a Tony for it is one of the main characters in the prom. So he's like one of the only Broadway ones. And he is hilarious. He's absolutely brilliant. You would love it. I went to see it last year for my mum's birthday. Went with mum and dad. And honestly, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this with my parents because it gets really, like, no one is left unscathed. But some of the points they get to, my dad was like rocking in his chair crying, but they were like sex songs and all this lot. And I was like, oh my God. That I think you would really, really like it. I think anyone who's not easily offended, go watch it. It's genuinely hilarious.
It's definitely on the bucket list of musicals to go see for sure.
What's your second warm film?
So this is based off an article I saw the other day actually, which was about the most rewatched films of all time.
Oh,
and
interesting.
This was apparently number one. However, the director has only apparently seen it once, I believe, and that is Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Classic.
Yep.
90s.
It's in one of the 1990s. Yeah. I think it's 94. 94. I'm
You're going for 94. Carry on chatting and I will check.
94.
Okay. Oh, it is 94.
It is 94.
Well done.
Yes,
to go with the Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Of course, yeah. And essentially, you know what you're getting. And
Richard Curtis.
Yeah, and I rewatch this all the time. Or at least did until they took it off Netflix. For a variety of reasons, if not for the fact, and I think this will be a good choice for the January, and this is why I picked it because because basically it reminds you how crap social gatherings can be.
Yes.
At the end of the day. I think that's the beauty of it, is you think, there's all these glitzy, glamorous weddings, but, it shows the underbelly of it and all the boredom, the waiting around.
The awkwardness.
The
forced
awkward
conversation.
Forced conversations with your uncle and
I know.
Trying to pull, but not trying to pull.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, these joyous occasions are filled with a lot of tension and anxiety for a lot of people. And it is just hilariously funny at the same time. And obviously you've got throw a funeral in there, and it's got my probably one of my favourite scenes, which is the obviously the funeral itself, and when the actor, what's his name, Stephen Hanna, I want to say. Yes, he was in The Mummy as well, wasn't he?
Scottish guy. He sings his reading of W.H. Auden Funeral Blues is just like one of his accents and everything else. Just like I love that poem anyway. So to hear it like that is very, very good.
Oh, that's lovely. The romantic in you. Good choice. Richard Curtis is a very good. Well, he's very prominent in December, isn't he? So he could easily spill over to January, because I think people, people go so New Year's resolutions 1st of January, but the 12 days of Christmas goes to the 6th of January. So I think you're expected to sort of drop everything and change on a dime, eating and drinking and being merry, and then you kick yourself for failing, and it's like, just be a bit kinder to
that's
yourself.
why
Just
I
ease
never
into
set,
it.
Yeah, I never set New Year's resolutions. I don't know about you, but
I used to, and I used to be like, bam, rigid, and it never worked because it's unrealistic and it's not very fair to yourself to do it that way. So just a little and often. A little bit consistency,
Yeah, end of the year goals are better, I think.
Yeah.
Rather than just trying to abstain from stuff for the entire year. It's
exactly.
just pointless.
Like life.
Surviving to the end of January.
Yeah, good choice. See, I was going to say Lord of the Rings, but now I'm not going to say it. Well, I had Pitch Perfect as well, just because that always makes me smile, and it's a real girl power silly film.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
I was a fan the first time I watched it. Rewatched it earlier this year.
Yeah.
Made my girlfriend watch it. Thinking she'd love it. She got bored. And then the Cup song came on again. And I just thought, actually, no, it's everything I hate about American music.
That's a big turnaround. What do you hate about it?
It's just cheese.
It is pure cheese.
Yeah, and I don't mind a cappella groups at the end of the day. I think they're great. But there's a certain a cappella trope, as you've already used that word, so I'm going to throw it in as well. That it seems to be that you have to be as perfect as possible. Yeah,
pure American perfection, isn't
exactly.
it? Yeah,
and I was watching this this video the other day of a song I really love by this band, and this group did an a cappella version of it. And it just sounded so overly produced. And they were sat there with like posture that had looked like they had steel rods replacing their spines. And they were just doing blank, smug faces the entire time. It just winds me up. I like a bit of dirt. I like a bit of mess. I like a bit of not that.
Candid. What's candidness?
Yeah.
Sincerity.
Sincerity,
something behind the eyes.
Yeah, not everything has to be, miraculously
bubblegum pop.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And again, I think it comes down to whether they sort of balance that so they get the right amount of cheese. But it is down, I think with those sorts of films, it is down to the audience member to be like, this is so corny, I'm going to go with it. Or this is so corny, it's going to grate on me like a cheese.
I think
grated.
The good thing about Pitch Perfect is you've got Rebel Wilson in it,
who improvised most of her lines. Yeah,
and it's just amazing. And I think for me, she counterbalances the Anna Kendrickness
because she brings like the Aussie-ness is a lot more like English humour, isn't it? So I think that's
a lot
sort
more
of
dry,
exactly
self-deprecating. Totally non-American.
Yeah, so no, I do see what you mean. She does balance it out quite nicely, actually. But I was thinking a lot of mine were ones that I thought aren't Christmas films, but I relate them to Christmas. So can I use them in January? But a lot of mine are like adventure films. So like Robin Hood with Kevin Costner,
right?
The Mummy, things that I just like grew up being like, I want to be one of those characters. Because I just think the irony in going into a new year, I think nostalgia is a very good way to ease into it because you just get that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. But yeah, have you seen Saving Mr. Banks?
I have seen Saving Mr. Banks.
I think that is one of the most lovely films. Are you okay?
Yeah,
you having a heart attack?
I just had to swallow a burp. Sorry, I didn't want to do that on the mic.
Away,
I was like, there you go. It came back up through the chest. That did not come out my mouth. Anyway,
do not silence me.
It's been a long day. No, me and my dad somehow got tickets to like not a premiere, not like before the cast and crew and sat down and watched it, but like a pre-cinema viewing.
Yes,
do you know what I mean? Like this cinema, I think it was one in Hull. Put on like a trial day where they invited people to come in and watch it, and we then left feedback, and if we liked it, they would book that film
right, that's quite good.
To run for the next month or so, and it was really good actually. I like anything with Mr. Tom Hanks, and so yeah. I'm just making sure I knew the right film we were talking about.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Who does Tom Hanks play?
Tom Hanks as Disney.
Very good, very good. Before we move on to films to avoid, I would say going to sort of animation side of things, I really like the Lego Movie.
Do you?
And Despicable Me. They
Yeah.
always make me feel quite relaxed.
Oh,
And
they are good,
You can
yeah.
kind of tap in and out of them.
I know my brother's a big believer in the Lego Movie. He's
Do you not like it?
I do, yeah, I do enjoy it. Is it Emmett, the lead
Yes.
character? Yeah. He's a great character. And it is just really inventive, isn't it? And I love Lego anyway, so
I just think the
it's a
humour
nice
in
one.
it is really funny,
Yeah.
but I feel like you don't.
It's been a while since I watched it. I've only seen it actually once, so but I do remember it being good, and it is something you, like you say, you can just put on and relax and enjoy.
Have in the background.
Yeah, and not have to like analyze every scene of it.
You don't want to be analysing in January.
No, absolutely not. It's
Leads to
it's
dangerous
actually
places.
frowned against in most societies.
Yeah.
Not recommended.
Let's move on to what to avoid. What sort of film in January would you say not to watch?
Oh God.
Titanic.
Any type of horror film.
Right. Yes, horror is a good shout. Because I was thinking depressing, but
Yeah.
actually you've got depressing and also horror.
See, I don't actually know this about you. But do you like horror films?
I love horror films, yeah.
I
Hate them.
hate them.
Let's just end this
with
podcast now.
with a passion, and this can be our conflict.
Yeah.
For the most part, I just don't see the point in them. I think sometimes they're just like, why would you want to feel scared? Not that I am scared.
It's a good point. Not that I'm ever scared. They don't scare me. They're stupid.
Yeah, they actually. I actually pity them because they're just like
From behind a pillar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I remember watching what was it, Insidious?
Oh,
That
see,
one.
I can't. I used to be really brave watching them, and now, like, I really struggle unless I'm watching it with someone.
Yeah.
Because I used to just be like, oh, that's a horror film I want to watch, and I just watch it on my own.
Yeah.
But
See, this was one of the only occasions I've actually watched a horror film, and it was with a group of mates at school. So we would have been about 13, 14 when Insidious
Classic.
came out.
Yeah.
And we was round at my friend's house watching it. And I just nipped out for a drink. And I came back in right during this scene where this like person was looking through a cupboard, and all of a sudden this person who, it wasn't the devil or anything, but it was like her younger brother or something wearing a devil mask, pops out of the cupboard. And I was walking into the room at the time, looked at the screen as it happens, and completely lost control of my legs.
I thought you were going to say your bladder then.
Well, very nearly. And basically,
You fainted.
I didn't faint. I just kind of like, you know when you're on the bus and like you haven't got a seat, so you're standing up.
Yeah.
And then like the bus driver just slams on the brakes. It was
Yeah.
like that. And I just kind of like went down onto one knee and walked a little bit like, and at the same time made this kind of noise that went, and all my friends were like, "Wow, what are you doing, mate?" Yeah, Christ. You know, everyone was acting all macho. I just completely melted like
Wow.
butter.
It sounds like you melted. I can't believe you fainted.
Yeah, I didn't faint. It just scared me. It just scared
frightened you.
Yeah, it frightened me so much I lost control of my limbs.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. See, I wasn't sure actually. I would have put money on you being more of a horror fan than not a horror fan. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I can manage them, and I don't mind.
It doesn't sound like you can.
Yeah. All right, I can't manage them, but I like thrillers and like real life crime, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I you know. That's what you'd avoid. I've just twigged.
Real life
That's
crime.
what you should avoid in January. Real life crime, yeah, definitely.
Like serial killer documentaries.
Yeah, I do enjoy them, but definitely, yeah, that's
that
the
time of
one
year.
to avoid. Yeah.
Horror films. Have you heard of or seen Hereditary?
I've seen clips on YouTube. See, this is the thing. I can watch scenes on YouTube if I know they're scary.
Yes.
And the more that I hear about them being notoriously like, oh my God, did you hear that scene?
Yeah.
I have to go and find it and see it for myself, you know.
Drawn in.
But I would never go and see it in a cinema. And I've seen some of the Hereditary clips, yeah, and I think, wow, that's cool.
That was probably the last horror film I watched where it really got to me. And when I watch horror films, like I remember the first time I watched The Blair Witch Project, I'd gone to uni and I was really awkward and painfully shy. And instead of going out and partying to meet people, I was like, I'll just watch The Blair Witch Project 'cause I've never seen it before. And then it was so scary. I often have to genuinely check under my bed,
Right.
look in the cupboards, make sure, there's no monsters or serial killers there. And with the Blair Witch Project, I had to sleep with the light on.
Did you?
It was awful. Yeah.
See, that one didn't bother me, and I hate horror films.
It's bizarre.
I watched that, and I just thought all those twigs and stuff in the woods, I just thought they look quite cool. It's like a little craft fair.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hereditary was the last one. So it's 2018. A grieving family is haunted by tragic and disturbing occurrences. And there's one bit in it. Do you know about...
The car
bit. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene with a car, and there's two people in the car, and then the aftermath of that, just the waiting.
Slightly less than two people in the car by the end of it.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And then after that, the reaction to that, just waiting for someone to find out.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was awful. Ari Aster is the director and the writer, and I think he's one of the best new horror.
Is he the one that did Midsommar?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
So him and is it Jordan Peele who did Get Out?
Yes.
Yeah, those two I think are the best up and coming horror people.
You're probably right.
But don't watch them in January.
No, absolutely not. Especially not Midsommar. God, that's one of those that I regretted searching the clips for the old scene and the old scene is
good sound effect.
It's
long
that really got
as well.
to me. Yeah,
do you reckon it's like sort of wading through mud, and I know that's the intention, but
and this is why I'm slightly put off horror films. Is I don't like the over almost trivializing of trauma, as it were. Honestly, going back to like Saving Private Ryan, and that scene on the beach, everyone's seen it at the first 20 minutes, and that guy's got his guts hanging out, and he's crying for his mum. That was like my first visceral.
God, it makes me like I feel it.
It was my first sort of visceral.
Your dad showed you that at 8?
At 8 years old, yeah.
God, I'm just thinking about that scene, and it's the mum bit. Like, I could cry if I sat and thought about that too much.
And that is like really well done, because it's obviously it's real. It would have happened like that. Obviously, my reaction as an 8-year-old was to go up, run under my duvet and cry, which is exactly what you would do at 8 years old, having seen that. But whereas like, and it's obviously why he does it in Midsommar, but the whole when the crowd starts sort of mocking the people that are having genuine reactions and screaming, it's like if someone walked along the Normandy beaches and was laughing in the faces of all these people with lost limbs and stuff. I don't know.
That's a very quite a dramatic comparison, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So I guess like with horror, you have to sort of park your, I don't know, something at the door. Yeah. Because like classic like Scream and whatnot, where they choose to run upstairs rather than to the police station, which is right outside. Yeah,
exactly.
But I do know what you mean.
Mm-hmm. It's that feeling when you watch a horror film and you can't believe anyone would
react that way.
Well, this is the thing about horror movies that get me as well, is I don't like some horror movie fans. You know, the ones that really get off on the fact that it doesn't affect me, and or I can handle horror films, or you know, in that kind of thing. Because I just think you're sick in the head. Like at the end,
there's something a bit.
Yeah, and it worries me that like some people would, take pride in that, and I can't get that out my head when I watch these things. When I'm having a sort of a real overt reaction, almost empathizing with this trauma that the character's going through, I hate to sort of think of a person sat in the cinema almost giggling away to themselves.
Yeah, that's it's psychotic.
It's a weird thing, but
no,
how I feel about it.
It's very true actually, and I don't know why I like horror. I think I think I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie with like extreme sports and whatnot, and I guess horror sort of gets the heart beating. But I really struggle to get through them. But I think the thing with Hereditary that really got to me was the reaction and how genuine the mum's reaction was after the car scene when she found out. Yeah. And just that scream went through me, and I was just like, good God, like that is more horrific than anything jumping out at you. You know, it's definitely awful. So don't watch Hereditary. Dear God, don't watch it.
Stay away in January.
Stay away until you're like on a Disney high, you know, floating on clouds. That'll bring you right back down.
And Yeah, and this is where I'd go into real life crime drama, that kind of thing, to avoid as well. Is I watched Mindhunter
I haven't seen that.
a couple Januaries ago, and it follows all. It's real life. It's based on real life about the guy FBI who established the term serial killer essentially, and developed all this pattern of psychology and stuff that would help track down these killers and that kind of thing. And you learn about some of the people involved in it. And I remember like Googling for hours on end about these different kinds of people, and I ended up in one of those Wikipedia
rabbit holes.
Yeah, rabbit holes where you're just going into, I hear about this, and then you hear about people in Russia, making snuff films for 30 quid and that kind of thing, and it's definitely one to avoid.
Yes.
This got dark.
It did get dark, quick, yeah. God, we have gone from happy, fantastic Mr. Fox, very dark. Little story, and will remain nameless. Basically, when I did my Achilles and I was in my boot, I met this guy on Bumble, which is like the classier version of Tinder.
Yeah.
And must have been about 2 years ago, actually. And we were chatting, got along really well, and then he lived in Liverpool.
Right.
And we were speaking on the phone and stuff, and watching films together whilst on the phone, and it was dead nice. And he'd mentioned he always kind of wanted to be in like the Secret Service, or like really was interested in serial killers. And I was like, yeah, everyone likes a serial killer documentary. They're morbidly fascinating. And he was really into them. And he said that he told me this before I went over to meet him. He was like, yeah, I've got a copy of Ted Bundy's fingerprints framed on my bedroom wall. Yeah. And he was like, a copy. And I was like, oh, right, that makes it okay then.
Right,
but he was like, but it's because I would want to be the agent that figured out the serial killers. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'll go meet this guy in a boot. So if anything goes wrong, I can definitely not run away. My dad dropped me off in Liverpool because I had a hospital appointment. So I was like, I'll combine it. And I had this in the back of my mind. I was like, Ted Bundy's fingertips on his wall, framed on his wall. And then my dad dropped me off. And I told him, and he was like, see ya. No, the opposite. He was like, here are your crutches. Like, I hope you don't die. And I was like, great.
Oh, Jesus.
And he turned out to be a lovely guy, but
and
I was
why
just
you're
like,
still seeing him, is it? Right?
Yeah. But I just thought,
not the fact that he had bodies in the walls and heads in the freezer.
Yeah, I thought it smelled a little bit weird. But imagine, I was just like, this is a foolish choice, but I'm at a very low point in my life because I'm walking around in a boot and my Achilles is sore. So I'm just going to go risk it.
It's a way out.
Yeah. Oh, God. This is the opposite of what I wanted this podcast to be.
Exactly, yeah.
I would say, moving on from serial killers, teen romances. And I love the sort of teen romance. I'm a proper sucker for it, and I know when it's naff, and sometimes it doesn't hit the mark, but other times I'm like, oh, that's lovely. But then these films like A Fault in Our Stars, and then I watched All the Bright Places, which is new on Netflix, and they've got these lovely happy covers and nice names. Don't be fooled by it, honestly. Don't be fooled by it. They're both incredibly depressing films.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Not everyone survives, let's just say that.
Yeah. The Fault in Our Stars was one of the first films my girlfriend and I ever went to see.
Oh, wow.
Because it just came out in 2014, I believe, when we just started going out, and we were both 16. We went to see it at the cinema, and it was just like, well, we're staying together forever because none of us wants to die like that. Yeah. So actually, it works quite well. Would recommend it as a first date.
Would recommend it as a first date, but not in January.
No, definitely not.
What?
Just don't date in January.
Yeah.
They're bound to have fingertips on the walls.
Yeah, actual fingertips. Yeah, do you have any other films that you would say avoid? I asked my mum this and she was like, Sophie's Choice. And I was like, you should probably avoid Sophie's Choice most of the year, though, I would say.
I mean, there's films I just actively avoid on a day-to-day basis.
Like what?
Like the Marvel films.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting because I was like, maybe you would go for the comic book thing, because they're bright and they're harmless. Yeah. But you would say no.
And this will probably make me a villain, to be honest, but
like a Marvel villain.
Yeah, like a Marvel villain. But I cannot stand 99% of Marvel films because they're just annoying. But anyway,
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily avoid them in January. Let me think of something I will actually avoid.
I think I get confused with the Marvel films. There's so much going on, and I know it's very clever the way they've done it for over so many years. But I've never been a huge fan.
No, and my brother is a massive fan who will go to every first screening, literally, and we'll talk about it endlessly. And I think fair enough, like be passionate about it. It's fine. And if you really like it, then that's all the better. But personally, they just don't do it for me. Like the Avengers stuff, I just thought too on the nose. Too on the nose.
I've got in my notes. Up, which is on both lists, because
watch and don't watch.
Well, it actually is, and I've put Up is on both lists. Skip the beginning, and then you can watch it. So don't watch the beginning in January.
Yeah, I would say anything hard going, like your mum said, Schindler's List, which I actually watched a couple of weeks ago. Very good. But then I do like war films.
I really like war films, and I thought, I would watch a war film in January.
Yeah, and so would I.
So does that make us not very nice people?
Probably, but it also makes you sort of grateful for how you are. And there's certain things, I don't know if you've seen The Pianist with
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
No, is it Brody?
Yeah, it is Brody, isn't it? Adrian.
Stall while I check.
Yeah.
Start singing.
Adrian. Blokey.
Adrian. How do you spell Adrian?
Adrian.
Adrian Brody. We were
Adrian
right,
Brody,
yeah.
Of course it is, yeah. That film always makes me almost inspired to not be a Nazi.
See, the way Lewis placed his hands on the table, inspired to play the piano was what I was expecting.
I always think, it's one of those films where you realise how evil humanity can be, and it drives you to be a better person in day-to-day life, and sort of. And it's not often that you get the chance to kind of stand up against injustices or anything like that, but you kind of it grants you a fresh perspective, and it's almost like a perspective. What would you call it? Like a rewiring. And for that time of the year, I think it'd be quite good, to start the year off with a fresh outlook.
Very good, yeah. So you're sort of turning it on its head. So in the war films, which can be very depressing, you look at it and can go, well, January's not that bad. And also I can be a better person, and definitely, like you say, it's rare that you're staring injustice in the face, but there are minor injustices that happen on a daily basis, and I think a lot of people choose to not that it always leads to conflict, but a lot of people err on the side of caution and just water off a duck's back. But it takes a lot of those little moments of courage to be like, actually, don't say that to that person, or don't say that, or I disagree with you saying that, and
I think it's when people are being a little bit perhaps spoiled, a little bit kind of
don't check their privilege.
Yeah, exactly. They don't check their privilege, and they're just overly complaining, or or just being a massive gammon, and you just think, you have no idea actually the black and white of
social dynamics,
of
for other people.
Good and evil, as it were. So it's good to kind of get your political compass back on track, I think.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
I think that's a nice way to finish, actually, unless you've got anything else to add.
No, other than I'm sweating out my balls.
So am I.
It's so hot.
It's so warm in here. I've been really uncomfortable this whole 42 minutes and 27 seconds. It's been really uncomfortable. My palms are sweating.
Knees weak, arms are heavy.
Yeah.
Vomit on my sweater already.
8 Mile. Should you watch it in January or not?
No, that's depressing. Detroit, the state of it. No.
Avoid 8 Mile. Yeah. Awesome. Well, on that note, thank you very much, Lewis Foster.
See you next time.
And
have me back.
Yes, yeah. If you haven't gone to a dark place in January.
Just don't come back.
Happy January.
Ta-ta and farewell.